Hello. Hey, everybody. It's April. It's Wednesday. We're back with another episode of The Positive Effect. And if you haven't found us before, my name's April Sabral. I'm the founder of retailu and an author of the book called The Positive Effect. And every week I bring on amazing retail leaders that have had a positive effect on the business they ran and the people that they led, in really to inspire a conversation around retail and people and why leadership's so important, because the effect of positive leadership cannot be underestimated, in my opinion. And I'm sure Joanne's going to agree with me on that statement today. So I'm really excited today, Joanne, to have you on our show. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So today I'm going to ask Joanne a ton of questions. If you don't know Joanne, you should. She's a legendary retail leader. I had the opportunity to work for you for a very short period of time. I wish it was longer, back when I was at Holtz. But yeah, we're gonna pick your brain today, and we're gonna get as much information out of you, because at retailu we're really focused on leadership, mentorship, and coaching young retail leaders to inspire growth in the industry, and really promote that. So I'm just so thrilled that you had the time to join us. So we're going to dive right in, because we've got 30 minutes. So if you want to tell us your story, and how you got into retail, because some of us fell into it accidentally and some of us had intention in going in. And one more thing before we get into your story: if you're joining the chat, tell us where you're coming from. I always forget to say that, because we've got a really great international retail community that join us every week. So just put in the chat where you're coming from. But yeah, tell us your story. I'm really interested to share this with everybody, because I don't even know how you got into retail.
Okay, well, accidentally is exactly what you were saying. When I was 21, I graduated in May from McGill. I was studying history and poli-sci. I had already signed up to be a teacher, to get a one-year teacher certificate, and I went to California.
Oh, wow.
I had friends who owned a small retail chain, 4 stores. And when I was there, I was lucky enough to work in the stores, go from store to store, go on the market, talk marketing. I was 21, didn't know what I wanted to do, and I fell in love with retail. So when I came back in August to Montreal, I took the money from the teaching school and I went to LaSalle College to take a one-year certificate in fashion merchandising. Now, I was 21. Most everybody else in the course was 18. They had not had a college degree, so it was easy. I was number 1 in the class. It was great. And then I got my first job at Eaton's. I was an intern at Eaton's.
Wow.
And 45 years later, I still love this business, and I have no regrets about getting into the business.
Wow. I did not know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So 45 years later, so people that don't know you, I want them to hear your story of your career path. Because again, a lot of people don't see retail as a true career, and you are I didn't know that's how you got into it. So your story is amazing to me. When I look at your LinkedIn, it's you were one of those leaders. I was I want to be like Joanne when I grow up, the positions and the roles that you have. So walk us through your growth of your leadership journey in retail and who you work from, because I think that's a good backstory.
Okay. I started, as I said, at Eaton's. I was an intern. Then I went to be the clerical for the buyer in the basement. Now, in department stores, the basement is the lowliest job that you can have. Okay. So I started as a clerical to the buyer in the basement, then worked hard, became the buyer in the basement. Okay. We were very successful. We, really understood who our customer was at the time. Eaton's was at that point the leading department store in Canada. Then I got promoted. I went to the regular department and I took over. I actually had menswear. I went into menswear jeans when jeans were very hot. So I was the buyer for that, extremely successful. Then I got promoted to department manager of the whole of menswear. So that was pretty exciting. I was, new to the job, but I loved it. Within a year, I got promoted to the head of women's wear, which was the, great job in the company. I was the first woman to be the head of women's wear. And it was very exciting. I was 30. I had just had my first baby. I just want to mention I took 2 to 6 weeks maternity leave for each of my 3 children.
Wow.
So balance was not part of my world at that point. Okay, after becoming head of women's wear, Eaton's decided to centralize everything to Toronto.
Okay.
So I was one of 2 people asked to move to Toronto. I went for 6 months. My husband was a lawyer partner in Montreal, so I chose to leave Eaton's at that time, and I went to work for a manufacturer called Harley, which today is Gildan. Okay. 21-year-old who has brought that company to great heights today. So that was very fun. Eaton's then called me back, and I realized I miss being in control, because in wholesale, you're not in control.
Okay.
The buyer is in control. So I miss the control piece. So Eaton's asked me back to go to Toronto. So I went back and I commuted for 2 years. Okay. Monday to Friday. My husband is a saint. Okay. And I had a wonderful housekeeper.
Yeah.
And then one weekend I was in synagogue with my kids, and my kids were clinging to me, and Stephen Reitman happened to be sitting next to me. So he said, Joanne, why are your kids? I said, well, I'm commuting. And he said, well, you know what? I just bought this chain out of bankruptcy, Pennington's, and would you like to stay in Montreal? So I thought, okay, that sounds like an interesting job.
Yeah,
so I went to Pennington's, and we had 19 stores that were in bankruptcy at that time. By the time I left Pennington's 5 years later, we had 120 stores. We were the most successful, I can say that, from a profit percentage within the Reitman's banner. So it was very exciting. Okay. And one of my answer to your later question is I then met Aldo Bensadoun.
Okay.
I got inspired by Aldo because he said he wanted to be the best shoe retailer in the world. Now, in the world was a big thing for somebody who really been involved in just Canadian retail.
Right.
I will tell you that Aldo had an inclusivity policy that was very different from anybody else. You could start as a stockman at Aldo and be the vice president of stores, and that actually has happened at Aldo.
And that's very rare, actually.
Very. So, and Aldo was an immigrant, so a lot of the people he employed, were, from other countries. And there was a huge mix between the stores and head office. That does not exist in most other chains. Head office is one thing and the stores are another. In this company, they mix. So I got, charmed by Aldo. So I left Pennington's, my very favorite company, with my dream team. And I saw something that I could go and do. And there I had a division called Transit, which again was the smaller division within Aldo. It was all based on promotion and flyers. And we said, this isn't the future, because you can't make money doing this. So we took 2 years and we transitioned Transit to call it Spring, which was really the first fast fashion shoe retailer.
Wow.
We did it very deliberately. Again, we had a team that we were the underdogs. We were the small division in a big company, and we made it very successful. So I love that. I worked for 9 years at Aldo, terrific company. I was the most senior woman executive. I was, I liked being the role model because we had a lot of women in retail.
Women there's a lot of women. Yeah.
Not so many in executive roles.
Yeah, you've been a trailblazer in that for me. That's when I look at your career path, and this is so interesting. I'm like, you're inspiring young women in retail to be able to go and take those roles, because like you said, there wasn't a lot of them, and you were that woman that was trailblazing that. Yeah.
And I had a wonderful time at Aldo. Can only say it was terrific. Then I met Les Wexner. Again, a global leader, somebody who I'd read about for 40 years, who started Limited, Express, Abercrombie, Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body. And he wanted me to come and be president of Licenza and Limited Brands Canada. So, I mean.
Wow. So you've been doing something, right?
So I said yes. And what I didn't realize at that time was that we were going to move Licenza. After being at Licenza for 6 months, Les decided that he wanted it to move to Columbus because he wanted it to be next to him so he could guide it. So what I had signed up for was actually a commute between Montreal and Columbus for 3 years.
Okay.
And one of the most difficult things that I had to do, and this is when I talk about, importance of leadership, was communicating good and bad. We had to tell 160 people, that we were moving the business, and they didn't have a job.
Wow.
Phil Durbano, whom was my HR director and my right hand. So we worked over 6 months to give CV courses, to give interview courses. We had we had other retailers come to our head office and have job fairs for our people.
Wow.
Fridays, ice cream. We kept the morale up because at the same time as I had to let go 160 people, I had to go to Columbus, hire 160 people and have them come to Montreal and learn the jobs from these people who were losing their jobs.
Wow. That
was an incredible balance. We also took 80 people by plane to Columbus from Montreal to offer them jobs in Columbus. Okay, 20 people took us up. 20 people actually came with us. And balancing the business through that, okay, was on all my team an incredible feat. Okay, so
unbelievable.
That was amazing. So I commuted for 3 years to Columbus, and finally, also working for an American company is very different. I will tell you, it raised the bar on a lot of levels, but on other levels, the idea of local desires weren't there. Les had big views of the world. He had his view of what lingerie was. There were supposed to be 3 sisters. There was Pink, there was La Senza, and there was Victoria's Secret. Pink was the young 15 to 20. La Senza was supposed to be first job girl, 20 to 30, and Victoria was obviously the sexy one. Les couldn't not have La Senza be that sexy. And to me, it got, sorry, there's my phone.
That's okay. We're on a live. It happens.
Yeah. So I didn't agree in the direction really at the end of the day where La Senza ended up going. So after 3 years, I said, I'm making a huge commitment in my life here. If I don't agree and I'm not happy, I'm going to, go back to Montreal.
Right.
So then I went back to Montreal, and within a month, I ended up going to work with Marks in Calgary. They were just revamping who Marks was, and I helped, a lot of that strategy work for 3 months. Then I went to Sears, where again, I will say there was an inspirational leader. I worked for Calvin McDonald. Okay.
Oh, he's one of the guys that I wish I'd worked for in my career. I follow him on LinkedIn. What he's doing at Lulu is amazing.
Yeah. So I worked for him for 9 months, but the challenge was that the people who had bought Sears were financiers. They were not retailers.
Right.
Okay. So it was not for me. So I lasted for 9 months, and then I was lucky enough to get offered the role of Holt Renfrew and Ogilvy's. They were merging as 2 businesses. Very interesting, because one was the Anglophone part of Montreal. Ogilvy's was a luxury kind of Francophone part of Montreal, and we had to merge these 2 businesses.
Right.
And so that I did that for 3 years and went through a ton of redesign. It's a private company, so the owner decides, what they want to do. And if they didn't like this redesign, chuck that. And
and that's where I actually met you, because I was heading up the HR2 brand, which was a really great concept, working with Heather as well.
Yes.
So you've had this amazing career in retail and these awesome opportunities to work for these mega iconic brands that were like ahead of their time. So I'm going to jump into some questions now, because thank you for sharing that, because I think that's so important for, like, say, women that want to grow and be an executive in retail to hear that it's possible and you've done it. So what inspired you to grow in a retail leadership role, right? Because like you were talking a little bit about leadership being important when you were going through all of that at Limited Brands, but what inspired you to grow in a retail leadership role? Because there's a lot of people in retail, they're kind of like, if you go back when people are tired, or they're like, oh, I'm not sure if this is for me. And I always say, reach the heights and then fix what you didn't like about it, right? That's always like why I did what I did. But what inspired you to grow in a retail leadership role?
I wanted to have a place at the table. Okay. I wanted to be part of the decisions. I wanted to be the boss. I thought I had a different leadership skills. I thought I was more empathetic. I thought, listen, most of the people in retail are women. Okay. And I think men at that time led differently. Okay. So I wanted to be the woman that could have the accountability. I like accountability. I like responsibility. And you have to like those things to become a leader.
That's good. You have to like accountability and responsibility to be a leader.
Absolutely. Because it's on you. Okay. The buck stops with you. So I didn't mind that. I wanted that. I was able to manage that. I guess I wanted to be an example for women. I never found the glass ceiling. If I worked hard and I delivered what people asked for, because that's what you have to do. You have to deliver, okay?
Yep.
Voted, okay? And I wanted to be that woman to inspire people. I loved working with people. I love finding an idea, okay? I love thinking about the future, okay? Like my people used to get annoyed at me because we'd have a great week and I say, well, that was really good, but what didn't work?
You're like, can you just recognize us?
And I will recognize it for 5 minutes, okay, where it's important that we recognize it. But you know what? The world, and today even more so, the world is changing by the minute. Yeah. So you really have to be looking forward all the time. Yeah. So I read voraciously. You know, as I said, I never found that glass ceiling. When I wanted a job, you have to put yourself forward. Yeah. Okay. You have to make people aware of you. Okay. Without being political, without being too political, because politics within retail exists. Yeah. And, you know, you have to be careful about that, even more so as a woman. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like, why did you get the job kind of thing? So I love seeing success. There was nothing more exciting to me than when I saw something check out at 10%. We designed it. We created it. We knew the customer. Okay.
That's what I love about retail, because retail is like, if you like to see the immediate results of your action, this is a career where you can actually see that happen, right? Like you can be entrepreneurial within the space, you can create something and you can see the result kind of turn around pretty fast. That's what I've learned about retail and love about it. But like you said, you got to step up and you got to take action. Absolutely. Right?
I'll tell you one story about feeling incredibly great. I was at Yorkdale Shopping Center with Les Wexner when we opened Victoria's Secret.
Okay.
And Les came and he said, and there was a lineup of, 3,000 people to get into the store. And he said, I didn't know it would work internationally. I can't believe it. People really love this brand. I was like, holy shit, this is a guy who's been in the business for 40 years. And he was almost in tears seeing the response to the brand. And those are the minutes you live for in retail, right?
Yeah.
You live for, and that's what you get excited about.
That reminds me of when I was in London and I was a store manager back in the day, and Starbucks was just opening in London, and Howard Schultz came to visit my store. It was right off Bond Street. And I remember him standing there. And he was having this moment, and he said to me, sometimes when I look down the street and see that, the siren, the sign, he's like, I can't believe that that's mine. And then he tried to pay me for a cookie. And I was like, no, you can take the cookie. It's your company. And I was like 21 at the time. And I was like, and his leadership book was the first book I ever read, Pour Your Heart Into It, which inspired me to grow my career because of his story. It's those priceless moments, right?
Another great story I'll tell you is about a consumer. Like, I love the customer, okay? My favorite customer was my Pennington's customer, okay, because she's incredibly loyal. We had an idea that we were going to do a flyer and we were going to use one of our customers, okay, in the flyer. So we had people apply and we had a vote, and I had to call the person who was going to appear on the flyer. And it was the most incredible moment because she was so excited. She said, I can't believe you want to use me in a flyer. It was just incredible for her. So, satisfying the customer, satisfying the founder, like two, very different things, but wonderful moments, and why you want to be a leader.
Yeah, that's why.
Experience those moments, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight this note in the chat. There's a lot of people joining and saying, what you're saying is resonating with them. But Michael Le Paturel, you might know him. He said, an incredible mentor to many individuals in retail. Your passion and intensity to deliver results is infectious. So that's amazing. And he said he had the pleasure of working with you at L Brands. So that's awesome. All right, I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
Because I think people want to know this, right? It's like, I want to, if you're a leader and you're watching this, you're like, I want to grow, and Joanne's inspiring me to be this woman in business and grow in retail. These are the kind of questions that we want to ask somebody, but we never kind of can. So what did you learn throughout your time as a president? Because that's a pretty significant role, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is. Because as I said, the buck stops with you, and you have to take that accountability. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why the number one thing that you learn is you have to have the best people around you. Okay?
Right.
Absolutely, because no one does it on their own. Okay. And you have to have people to share that with. And that involves really some tough decisions, because you have to hire the best, but so you also have to fire people that don't work out. And that's the hardest thing for people to do. Somehow firing people, and I'd rather just leave them, and but you don't know what that does to your business. You need to have all of your people performing at a high level. So people are the number one thing that you learn. It can take up 80% of your time. Okay. A lot of people don't like that part, but it's a really important part of your role, is leading people and inspiring people. And if you give them the right directions, okay, you have to be clear, concise. The second thing I would say is communication, 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 and transparency. Good times, like when we built Call It Spring from Transit, good times, everything was good, everything got better. Tough times, like Limited Brands, when we had to, let people go and move to Columbus. So transparency and communication is really critical. And if people don't do that, and today even more so, because it's going to be on the internet tomorrow.
Yeah, it's true. People write reviews about our leadership style now on Glassdoor and all kinds of things, right? It's like it's all out there.
All right. Yeah. And the third thing is make decisions. Don't procrastinate. Okay. That's really important, because some people want all the information before they make a decision. You have to get to 60 or 70% information, and then you have to make the best informed decision. It's the only way you move forward.
That's such good advice. I remember when I worked for Heather and I had to make a decision on spending a budget on something, and I had never spent that much money before. And I was like so scared to make the decision and commit. And she said the same thing to me. She's like, you got to make the decision no matter what happens. So, and then you build confidence, right? As you make those decisions with that kind of 70% knowledge, and you learn from them, but you build that kind of confidence just to take action. Because the book, that's what I learned when I was an executive. I'm like, oh, there's nobody to ask. It's like me. I have to make that call, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And you have to. The book starts. And I think what you're saying about people is so important. I learned a long time ago, I procrastinated on a manager that wasn't performing early on in my career. And when I made that change and brought somebody else in, I was like, man, I should have done that a year ago.
Because you don't realize the effect of that person on everybody else.
Exactly.
It's really not visual that you see that a bad person within a good team can, pollute the whole thing.
Somebody told me, I can't remember who told me this, but they said when somebody else's performance starts becoming your performance, then it's time to,
to move on,
make a change, move on. Yeah. And I think we work in such a relationship driven business that those relationships sometimes can cloud that. So it's about stepping back and being objective and really looking at what the mandate is, and really thinking about the results you're delivering. Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So don't micromanage people. And I have been guilty of that. Most people I know are guilty of that, but if you have the right people, so it starts with the right people, you have to let them learn. And the only way they learn is making decisions, try to make it so that decisions are not catastrophic decisions. Small decisions that you can learn from. That's really important. And the last thing, really key thing in leadership, is testing. If you have an idea, test it. I mean, I learned that at Limited Brands. I mean, when we had a promotion, I had 4 different promotions up in 4 different areas to see which one worked better. We had product delivered. I mean, you have to be, of scale to be able to do this, but testing in anything, whether it's in marketing, in HR, in, how you run a store, how you present a store, really important. And I think just, more important today.
I think that's really good advice, particularly for today with the changes that we're all going through as well, to be able to test and then validate, test and validate, and then really give it some time to see what the results are going to be versus just rolling out a full chain, because we've seen that happen before and that's been a disaster. So I think that's good, great advice, and even more relevant today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even more relevant.
I'm just seeing John joined the chat. An incredible mentor to many individuals in retail. Your passion and intensity to deliver results is infectious. Oh, it's so good.
Piece here, and I know people hate hearing that, but you know what? Delivering results is really important.
Oh yeah.
People always come to me and say to me, Joanne, I want to be just like you. What can I do? And they've been there 2 minutes, right?
Right.
So I say, listen, go back, work hard, deliver the results, ask for extra work, ask to be on the projects, ask to do that. That's how you'll get ahead. But you got to deliver results. In this business, it's very black and white. Okay.
It is. It totally is. You're running a business, right? And people have jobs because the business is successful. We've seen a lot of retailers go out in the last year because they didn't have a strong bottom line balance sheet. And then people lose jobs, right? So your responsibility is to make
I
sure that
always worry because retail, 90% of the people are women. A lot of them are single women. This is the way they feed their family. I mean, I think about that kind of responsibility. Okay. So that's why you have to have results. That's why I explain to people, listen, I understand that you don't agree with perhaps we have to make this cut or that budget. We want to survive. We want to have a business. We want to employ people. You know, that's key.
Third highest employment sector in the world. Say it every day to people when they're like, you know, why don't you do things outside of retail? I'm like, why would I? I'm that single mum that raised 2 kids through retail by myself, lived in 3 countries, and it's a great career. Like I was never out of work, right? So yeah, what you're saying is so important. Okay, I'm looking at time.
Yeah.
This is such a great conversation. Oh my God, I could talk to you for like a whole hour, but I've got like about 7 minutes left. So what was a pivotal moment in your career?
So I talked about the 2 pivotal moments in my 45-year career when I took a risk. I left really good jobs. Normally you leave a bad job. Okay.
Yeah.
I left 2 great jobs because I met inspiring leaders and I saw the future in them. Okay. And I think you've got to look for that. Okay. So listen, I have to say, I always had a backstop. I had a great husband who supported me. And you know what, if it was a failure, it would have been okay. So I had that as a backstop. So it's easy to say risk it all, but you know, I risked it. And, you know, I was very lucky. Most worked out, a couple didn't, but following inspiring people, find the person that can mentor you, or you can look and see how they did it and ask them questions, and don't be afraid to reach out to people. Okay. I'm always shocked I'm afraid to call this person or ask this person. Listen, a lot of people don't answer. I have to say it's a bad habit today. People don't answer.
Yeah.
Reach out if you can, find that person. That's what brought me my success.
Yeah. And now it's even easier than it was 25 years ago.
Absolutely.
We didn't have LinkedIn. We didn't have social media platforms like this to be able to jump on here and share your story and connect with people. And every leader that's been on The Positive Effect says the same thing. Like, reach out, be bold, be brave. The worst thing that can do is somebody doesn't answer you. Don't let that shake your confidence. Keep at it. It's persistence, right? When you really want something, you got to go after it. So I think that's really great advice. So then, talking about leadership, then, do you think that the leader owns their own development, or do you think the company owns their development?
I think both things are true. Okay. If people are the key to a business, then you've got to have within the company, no matter big or how small, a succession plan. I think you have to have a fast track, because I think, you know, some people will not follow the normal path. So you need to have a fast track, especially today. People want to get ahead fast. So you need a fast track. You need to have coaching and mentoring. I didn't have either of those things, and I wish to God I had that. It would have helped me a lot. So, you know, most companies are having that, but then it's also up to the individual. You have to put yourself out there. You have to work hard. You have to deliver, as I said, the results. You have to do all those things. So it's equal. You have to find the person you want and say, can I have that person as a mentor? You know what? Most people don't say no.
I know.
So like, go for it. So it's equal responsibilities. Companies have a responsibility, but the individual has to deliver to be able to be part of that, development program.
Right. Ron Thurston, who wrote Retail Pride, who's the VP of Intermix, just put a post in the chat and he said, Joanne needs to write a book. You do. You need to write
a lot of
something.
stories, I have to tell you. Wonderful stories. Boy, oh boy. Yeah.
That would be amazing read. So maybe we're going to get onto Joanne and get her to write that book, because I think that just there needs to be more retail leadership books in the market,
Sorry,
somebody's joining the chat.
My dog just got picked up, so she's.
I love it. No, but there needs to be more retail leadership stories in the market. There's not a lot of retail leadership books. There's a lot of how to be successful in retail, tech and retail, process in retail trends, but not those inside leadership stories of lessons learned that can really drive a business forward. And people like you, myself, Ron, people that are sharing that now are writing books, and I think that's amazing. So I'm just saying you should write a book.
We got to understand that retail is a business, and this is what people don't understand. Like, my husband's a lawyer, so people all admire, being a lawyer. Okay?
Yeah.
But I think retail can be as exciting, as remunerative. Okay. It's a global business. You can travel anywhere to do this business. So we've got to understand that, yes, for some people it's a part-time business, but for a lot of people it is really full-time professional business.
It is. And for many years, my family never really thought I had a real job, right? Until I started reaching multi-site. And then I was like, oh, I work in retail and I, manage 10 stores. But, yeah, it's a real career. That's what I'm going to say. I am an advocate for it, just like you are, and like many of us. So we're reaching out. I really could stay here for another half an hour, but I've got one last question for you, because I think our audience is all about, and you've answered a lot of the questions just by the conversation, but our audience are all about like growing their career, and you've given words of advice, but like, what's it going to take to be a real successful retail leader in the future, do you think?
First of all, you're going to have to you have to be passionate about it. I have 3 children who are absolutely not in the corporate world, but they found their passion in the arts, and they are very successful. Okay. I never thought they would be, but they're very successful at what they do because they found something they're passionate about.
Right.
So within retail, you've got stores, digital, logistics, planning, imports, buying, products. There's so many pieces. Find the part that you love. Look for the part that's not familiar and that, you wouldn't go to be comfortable. Look for that, but find the passion. Number 1, you'll work harder if you're passionate about it. Okay. I would say take risks. That's, easy for me to say, but I think it's really important in today's world. I think you can move, certainly from place to place, job to job. Listen, most people in retail before I started worked 25 years, 40 years at the same place. I was one of the few people that moved, and, people looked at me very strangely, but you know what? Take the risk and go get it. Be grateful and be optimistic. Okay. I'm grateful every day for, all that I had. I didn't have a balanced life, but I had a wonderful life, and I'm grateful to all the people who provided that. Every day I think about that. Take care of yourself. Okay. Self-care, really important. I know you love meditation. I only got into yoga meditation later in my life, but you can't take care of anybody else if you don't take care of yourself. Okay. So self-care is super important. Being grateful is super important. And if you can, learn from the best, find the best people and learn from them.
That is golden words of advice from Joanne Nemeroff. Like, oh my God, this was such a great conversation. I learned so much more about you today. And I know that we have interactions because you're, on our advisory board at retailu, which is like, I'm so blessed to have you give us your advice and help us. And just, it's just, you're such a trailblazer. I just can't thank you enough. Because when I worked with you for the short time, every conversation I had was always inspiring and caused a call to action. That's what I would say. So I just thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your week and your day. And I know that you're coaching now and mentoring people and got a coaching business, right? That's what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is brilliant. So yeah, if you can get coached by Joanne Nemeroff, I would say go for it, because she's got all these years of words of experience, which is priceless. So yeah, all I'm going to say for today, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat. If you find this and you're just finding us now, or you see it in your feed, share it. We say this every week. Share this conversation with your retail network and get this out there. This is priceless mentorship. And I'm just so thrilled that I'm able to bring these conversations to life through an amazing network of retail leaders that I have. So thank you so much. And we just appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.